beautiful day. Okay. Continue.
You're the birthday boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
So that
I thought it was my
explains the
turn.
energy this morning, right?
I'm Jeffrey Uzama. I don't know what just happened.
Happy birthday, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday, Jeff.
I forgot to bring my bucket of water. That's what we did in secondary school.
I'm too old for that.
We carried
You're never too old for some things,
and poured
Jeffrey.
water on the person.
So we're going to make sure we make that happen. Good morning. Welcome to the show. You can tell there's a lot of celebration on this side. It's a very special day on different levels. It is Thursday, December the 5th. Every 5 days really matter because, you know, December the 25th is in fives. So you begin to count 5, then 10, and then 15, 20, then 25. Welcome to the Morning Brief. We're live for you in Lagos. I'm Kayode Okikili.
And we're upbeat as well. Good morning and welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on your preferred station, Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
So how many days is it again you said to Christmas now?
20 now. So
20
it's easier
days.
this way. So I just split it in
so I
fives. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25.
So you do it in the block of fives?
You get it.
Amazing. So what have you been up to, man?
A lot. Naturally following what's been in the news. I think December really doesn't change much, particularly when it comes to news. There is a lot happening right now in Nigeria. And trust us right here to help you keep tabs. Something playing out in Vietnam got my attention. And I think we touched on it yesterday. You know, the tycoon who was sentenced to death as a result of, you know, corruption allegations. She was eventually convicted. And a lot of people were saying, yes, this is something we can try out in Nigeria. Once you're found guilty of corruption, how about death sentence? And some people say, maybe not yet. Some say, well, if you can return 80 or 90%, then no problem. And I think that has been a major talking point, really, particularly because the FCC, you know, got some property and people were thinking, how would you have this much, you know, duplexes to your name or your company's name? So that's what I've been keeping track on, trying to see what's happening around the world, seeing how we can domesticate it or not.
For me, it's a bit different, Kadi. It's this continuing controversy on the tax reform bills, and it's emerging that, you know, it's not just about the new sharing formula that is the challenge that is bedeviling the tax reform bills, but a lot more even having to do with religion as it has emerged. You know, following the conversation that featured on Channels Television yesterday, it emerged that, you know, the opposition to the bill from a huge section of the North is about inheritance, it's about religion, and, you know, those opposed to the bill would rather have a different proposal. And you know, they're emerging with what that proposal would be. But I'm wondering if what is being shared is an inheritance that is bequeathed to Nigeria by bloodline. And if that is the case, should we be viewing the tax reform bills from it? Or we'll be viewing the tax reform bills or any other bill from the secular perspective? After all, Nigeria is a nation state, you know, that is not necessarily founded on religion, but on secularism, on a constitution that impacts on the generality of the population, regardless of what their religious disposition towards the bill is. And of course, there must be respect for the religious dispositions of the generality of Nigerians, regardless of what that is, and proceed with the values of integrity, of equity, and of respect for one another. You know, so we should be reflecting on those values rather than sectional approach towards the bill. Of course, there are other colorations to, you know, factors affecting the bill as well. And you could talk about politics of 2027, of, you know, belonging to the party, you know, that would, you know, take sway in 2027. Those are the other issues. But more importantly, religion is what is, you know, coloring the bill. And we should look at it, you know, objectively.
I never knew about that religion element until Leki Abejide said it yesterday. I still don't understand how it impacts this bill, but I'm still studying it. But at the end of the day, it's to find a common ground. But I still don't understand what religion has to do with this. I will do my research, ask questions to the people in charge to be able to have my comments on it. But one of the quick things I want to say before we get to what we're doing today is Africa's obsession with old people in leadership. I'm saying that Africa is a young population. They say we're at average age of 19, 18, 17, or let's just keep it at 19. But we keep electing older people to lead the nations of Africa. I don't know what that obsession is really all about. Some have sat tight since 19, God knows when. They don't want to leave. People like Paul Biya in our corner. I think Namibia just elected a 72-year-old lady. I'm happy it's a woman, but she's 72. Our president is over 70. Ghana's president that is leaving is over 70. What is it with Africa and old people leading a young continent? Young people, we must change that tide. And of course, the issue of the NNPCL is still on the front burner at the end of the day. Let's do what we can to make sure that the truth comes out, and we will find out exactly what is going on at that Port Harcourt refinery. But that's not all we're talking about for it on the show today. Let's bring to the fore the issue of freedom of speech and freedom of expression as guaranteed in our Constitution. To what extent can you speak your truth? And what does the Constitution say? How does the Constitution protect you in expressing yourself? There are provisions and there are limits and all of that. That is one of the conversations we'll be having today on the program.
And we're huge on the arts and celebrating inspiration today. So the amazing art of creating aesthetic and captivating furniture is under the spotlight today as we speak with a visionary storyteller in the furniture space.
Very interesting one, really, because wherever you are, there's always some furniture around you. But that's not all. We also delve into promoting safety in and around our workplaces, really. We cannot essentially overlook this. And everyone goes through difficult situations or periods in their lives. But what matters most is how you are able to bounce back. So our guests joining us will give us more insight on how to deal with the challenges and rigors of life. Call it life skills.
Absolutely. And finally, we'll take a look at the art of photography and the power of visual storytelling. Our guest, an experienced photographer, will be joining us to expand on this particular topic. So we have a packed show for you to explore all of the angles that you want to talk about, from the very serious to the semi-serious to the very soft things of life. We'll be exploring all of that right here on the program. Bukola.
Jeffrey, I just wanted to add that please celebrate. At least we'll have a woman president, another woman president in Africa.
But you didn't mention the leader I was talking about. How did you?
We have another.
How did you conclude that he was talking about?
I am one of those looking.
I'm
one of those looking forward. If a woman comes out and joins any party that is winnable, you know what, Nigerians, they have unwinnable parties, at least for now. Forgive me. I'm going to support a woman. We tried men for 64 years. Look at where we are. Nigeria is a product of men's leadership. Let's try a woman. So just to tell you, I'm for women. I'm just saying, stop electing old people.
Is 72 too old for you?
Too old for a young African continent of 19.
So if we can have an 80-year-old president,
the average age of the continent is 19. What do we have to do with people that are over 70?
We can have a 72-year-old female president.
We actually have a
continent.
90-plus-year-old.
It's just our neighbor.
Yeah. So it's not even 90-plus.
Late President Mugabe was very old.
But Paul Biya sets the record, 91.
91.
Yeah. But some will say we're taking after the United States, right?
All right.
It was going to be Biden.
But congratulations to the young ones. I'm not talking about
congratulations to the women.
Are we going to have one? Let's take this quick break. We'll be right back to give you your top stories.
Stay with us. At this hour, the Senate has set up a committee to review the controversial tax reform bills that are before the National Assembly. The committee, which will be headed by Senate Minority Leader Senator Abba Moro, will meet with the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, to address gray areas in the bills and revert to the Senate before public hearing.
And now, all the Nigerian Bar Association has called for the release of human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi over allegations of libel leveled against him. A statement by the president of the NBA, Mazi Afamosigwe, said his arrest was a breach of the rule of law and reiterated that the alleged offense of libel is not recognized as a criminal offense under the laws of Lagos State, but is rather a civil offense.
Nigeria and South Africa have fully operationalized the Joint Ministerial Advisory Council on Industry, Trade and Investment to enhance economic cooperation between the two leading African economies. President Cyril Ramaphosa disclosed the decision in Cape Town, South Africa at the Nigeria-South Africa Business Roundtable. Well, at the roundtable, President Bola Tinubu, who is now back in the country, assured that Nigeria is open for business and ready to provide stability, security and the rule of law for businesses to thrive.
And still more, an unidentified disease has killed at least 27 people in just over a month in the southwest of the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to the country's health officials, the illness, which causes fever, headaches and a cough, has so far affected people of all ages, including children.
Now to the entertainment scene. Nigerian music artists Ashake and Iris Star have been nominated for the 2025 Music of Black Origin Awards, that's MOBO, well, under the Best International Category Act, alongside United States-based artists Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, and Kendrick Lamar. 7 Nigerian artists were nominated in the Best African Music Act category, including Odumodu Black, Rema, Shally Poppy, among others.
It looks like Africa is all about Nigeria right now. But let's talk sports for a moment, where English Premier League champions return to winning ways after a 7-game winless run after beating Nottingham Forest 3-0 at the Etihad Stadium. Meanwhile, runaway league leaders dropped 2 points as Newcastle United held them to a 3-3 draw. I was saying that it's quite impressive to see Africa. When you say Africa right now, just say Nigeria. I think we should just Africa, Nigeria, Africa, or Africa, Nigeria. How do you put it down?
Well, I wonder what Ghana and South Africa will have
forget that one,
as well as the other
forget it
50-something African countries, but it is what it is.
The majority will have their say. The majority will have their say. It's a democracy.
Particularly because we have the power of population, human capital, creativity. I could go on and on. But hey, what have you been saying about the top stories and all the major trending issues? Let's get right into it. Don't forget #CTV Morning Brief. That's how you can be a part of the show. Or you can just head to WhatsApp and send us a message. You'll see the WhatsApp number on your screen any moment. So we start off with this controversy around the FCC's recent
recovery.
Strikes. Yeah, recovery. Over 700 duplexes shocked a lot of people in the nation's capital, Abuja. But more importantly, for some people, is the identity of either the owner of the property, an individual or a company. But just give us some sort of context. So EFCC put out a statement to tackle that issue. Why we concealed ownership identity of seized 753 duplexes. So EFCC gave explanation, around the court issues, and Jeffrey, help me out with it.
Action in rem,
not action
not
in persona.
Action in persona.
So they targeted the property and not the individual. But people still say, let us know these things, right? Don't give us legal terms. First user, Adegoke, that's Omoba Akile Jebu, says the Commission's decision must be in respect of the citizens. The EFCC as a public institution must give room for dissent and show transparency in all its doings, this user says.
All right, Pura Araba says the EFCC should not have made it public until the case is ripe. I insist that EFCC has ventured into politics and this is not good for the organization and the country.
Stedmark is next, saying concealment is corruption. It's pure aiding and abetting. Why not parade them as criminals? Well, they are. Again, the court has not decided on the people, right? Goes on to say it's only in Nigeria we have common criminals and conceal rich criminals. So, yeah.
Well, they said nobody laid claim to it. So Abdullahi Rabiu says it is better to disclose their identity. Had it been the units were illegally owned by the ordinary Nigerians, you would have disclosed. It's, I guess, what he said. And yeah, to an extent, people have said that over and over. I think we can't repeat that. When it's poor people, when it's people that they have not.
Yeah.
It's easy to just put them out or put a picture. As soon as it gets to the politically exposed person, it becomes complicated. Simple things just become complicated. Come on, rule of law, rule of law.
Targayan Ustaz is the next one. Now take a look at this user's comment. It is clear for this user that we're running 2 different countries, one for the rich and one for the poor. If it were Yahoo boys, the EFCC would have been quick to provide full names, picture evidence, and even parade them holding billboards.
With the building under it.
detailing their alleged crimes. And we see this a lot. I mean, we've seen this, I should say. You see a couple of them.
NDLEA does that as well.
You see them lined up, sometimes dozens of them, with vehicles, laptops, mobile phones. And people say, okay, if we see it for these young people, let us see it for those other ones as well.
You know, I was thinking about something the other day, Kade. Is the NDLEA saying to us that they've not been able to get either a current or a past politically exposed persons who use drugs in this country?
Big question. I remember the controversy.
You can't tell me that.
With the senator.
You cannot tell me that.
Remember the back and forth with the senator, and the senator said, no, that's not true.
You know, we read these stories sorry for cutting in. We read this story every other day. NDLEA has done this, and we commend the NDLEA, let's be clear. They've done, since under General Marwa, they've done incredibly well. But I'm worried. I'm just thinking as a Nigerian, since this success, no politician takes drugs in Nigeria, past or present.
Maybe they are born again now.
I don't know. It's difficult. Anyway, Kayode, you have the next one.
So let's move on to the next talking point. And this was a video that was put up online. Lagos state government sealing popular supermarket in Festac over sale of, get this, expired baby food and other products.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so the video was put up, there was a lot of talk around it, but let's listen to what you have to say about that case. Narrowscope is the first user that takes a comment on this one. Says, this is a job well done for thwarting further sale of expired baby products in this festive period, that sales of food and commodities steepen or go up automatically as the holiday demands.
This is just very scary. These are children. Emmanuel said, good job, but I think destroying the expired product is better against sealing the whole shop. Okay? Kayode?
So I imagine that should follow naturally. First is to prevent the public from, or at least prevent those products from getting out to the public. So that's why I imagine it was sealed. So what should follow is get those products and destroy them. Oni Gongon, I hope I got that right, says, I live in Festac some years back and I bought a yogurt at a supermarket on 22 Road. Unfortunately for me, it was an expired yogurt. I brought it back and they told me it was not their fault. So this user said, Lagos state government should visit most of the stores in Festac and Okota. This is good news. I think this should also go around, really, all across Lagos. Exactly. So if there are areas, absolutely tell government. But I think government should also take initiative to go around, because there are some in some other areas unsuspecting selling expired products.
Some can even change the label.
Scratching the date off.
Oh boy. Ebuka says, very good. Most of these supermarkets and mini stores sell expired drinks, etc. should be deeply looked into.
All righty, let's talk election matters now. INEC's office in Delta State was hit by fire, which destroyed ballot boxes and other materials. What have you to say? Obina says, hello world, it's 2024, and we're still experiencing our electoral commission buildings being set ablaze, and still no suspects or culprits.
Okay, Prince Phil Casey says, what is the millions of naira doing in INEC office? Do INEC staff pay in cash? Is INEC office bank? Does government agency deal with cash? I don't know what is it that they discover something in cash? I'm not sure what this is. But the story here is that the INEC office in Delta State at this particular location got burned and perhaps things were destroyed. That is the story. But that's all we can take right here as far as what you're saying is concerned. But keep it coming. Remember, our WhatsApp line is back. So bring in your thoughts. We're going to ensure we amplify it as much as we can. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the very first conversation that has to do with freedom of expression. Join us again.
Welcome back, and as we start off, we're doing a thermometer test on the civic space, as is characteristic of us here on the Morning Brief on Channels Television, to check the health status of, the freedom of expression space online, on-site. And this time around, it may also have to be done on the pages of publications, of course, in light of recent events. And joining us this morning to have this conversation, we have Mr. Olanrewaju Lawal, who is a legal practitioner who joins us virtually from London, United Kingdom. We also have Mr. Yakubu Mohammed, a journalist who joins us from our Abuja studio. And here in our Lagos studio, we have Mr. Nelson Ekunjimi, who is the Executive Director, Committee for the Protection of People's Mandate, rights activist and good governance advocate. Mr. Ekunjimi, welcome to Channels Television.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
For good reason, I'm going to start with Mr. Lawal, who's a legal practitioner, and we're looking at freedom of expression, particularly against the backdrop of the most recent arrest of human rights lawyer, Mr. Dele Farotimi. And, in quick reaction to that, of course, the NBA and human rights lawyer, Mr. Falano, have condemned the action, stating categorically that Lagos and Edo State are among two states that have decriminalized defamation. So on the back of that, against the 1999 Constitution as an overview, is Mr. Farotimi liable under the defamation laws? And if he is, I'd like you to put it in proper context for us.
Okay, thank you for having me. Indeed, it's a very important question. I will not be able to talk about whether or not Mr. Dele Farotimi is liable, because I don't have the full facts. I'm neither his lawyer nor the lawyer for the state. However, I will talk in light of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Section 39 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 1999 as amended, among other rights, guarantees a right to freedom of expression, which includes a right to hold opinion, receive, impart ideas and information without any interference. However, no right, no matter how fundamental it is, that is absolute. And that is why, of course, Section 45 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Constitution, as amended, it's in one way or the other takes the right in form of limitation. In other words, it is an exception to the freedom itself, and in one way or the other, it gives the right to other people. To be specific, the section provides that insofar the right is not absolute, the right is limited where there is a law that is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society, which tends to protect the right of others. And this is where the law of defamation comes in. The law of defamation is in two perspectives. It has criminal ingredients and also it has civil ingredients. Sometimes anyone who feels his right has been infringed upon, in other ways, he or she has been defamed, can decide to pursue it under the criminal law or civil law, because the purposes are not the same. For criminal law, it is when you want to go for punishment. And for civil law, this is where you want to repair the damage which has been done to you. It can come in form of compensation whatsoever. So depending on what you choose to go for. So I don't want to bore you with the legalese. However, the defamation in itself simply means a statement made either in written or in words that tends to injure the character or that is detrimental, put simply, detrimental to the reputation of an individual. The ingredients of criminal defamation is not entirely different from the ingredients of civil defamation. In other words, the statement must be communicated to the third party. It can come in form of electronic means, because electronic means of this dissemination of information is part and parcel of documents. So whichever way you communicate an information to a third party, it can be public, it can be just only one person, insofar it is not communicated to the person whose character is being injured. So it satisfies the condition that the information can be deemed to be defamation. It can be written in books. So the difference between the one that is spoken and the one that is written or that is documented, as I've stated before, is that one is libel and the other one is slander. All I'm saying, in essence, is that defamation is an exception, is part of exception to the freedom of expression that has been guaranteed by the Constitution. And if you look at it critically, because the reason in law is a perfect equity, the reason for the thought of defamation or criminal defamation is a fundamental right itself, and that is where many people don't look at it from. Defamation, in one way or the other, is giving or is returning the right to dignity and honor to another person, so that in the course of you exercising your right to freedom of expression, you must operate within the doctrine of proportionality.
Right.
So that your right will not infringe the right to dignity and honor of another person. So that is the purpose or the reason behind the law of defamation in terms of civil law or criminal law. So in essence, freedom of expression is not absolute. And we must understand that.
All right, so it's a balancing act here to determine how, the right of the other person has been infringed upon, and of course the difference between libel and slander. But let's bring it to the studio now. Mr. Kunjimi, of course, our Constitution guarantees freedom of expression, but how do we, define the fine lines of expressing oneself as against infringing on another's right?
Well, thank you very much. The guest that spoke from London had set the template, and it is the fact that every right comes with responsibility, and like he rightly said, no right is absolute. Otherwise, I can say my right to eat, if it becomes absolute, it could also give me the right to take poison, and the consequences. So be that as it may, I think it is important for us as a people to recognize that, like we say, words are like eggs. When it's spoken, it cannot be, brought back. And so persons making comments, expressing opinion, must always have it at the back of their mind. Just like the four-way test of Rotary. Is it fair? Will it promote good brotherliness? So people must take into consideration that this comment of mine, because majorly you find this abuse of people's rights, like this slander we talked about, because defamation takes two phases, either it's libel or slander. Libel is when it's in a written form, maybe in a book or any other publication, but slander is words of mouth. So persons must recognize that for a society to thrive, for there to be peace, equity, and justice, the rights that you have, whatever right you have, that it is not absolute. Otherwise, the society will, dovetail into a state of anarchy.
All right, let's bring in a journalist on this one and get your sense, your opening thoughts, because you've followed stories like this from time to time. You've seen how they start, how they end. By the way, this case is a very interesting one. So there's what happened before. That's what was written in the book, right? That's, I think, the crux of this case. And then there was the process of arresting him, right? What happened in his office, how phones were confiscated, how he was taken from Lagos to, Ekiti State, and now the case in itself. The NBA had raised issues about whether this is criminal or civil. Others had raised issues about the jurisdiction and the rest. But following this trail, what really jumps at you?
Okay, thank you very much. Things like this are normal, even though they are very abnormal. They are normal in this country. So now we have had several cases where a petition is issued against someone. If it is petition, you have to settle things in court, right? So now there are patterns of harassing people in the course of you seeking redress. So now you want to correct something, a defamation, right? Then the next thing you do is to get police to arrest this person, and a lot. So it's because Farotimi is somewhat popular. This happened to people a lot. There are people that have been picked up, especially in some northern part of the country, and you never heard anything about them again. That is the end, right? Because you have access to security personnel. Then what you just do is use your influence to get this person arrested, and that's all. So now look at what happened to Daily Farotimi, how it was tried in the court, right? Everything was done hurriedly. So beyond that, as a journalist now, this happened to us a lot. And when we talk about court, magistrate court is a go-to to many of them, right? You are abducted or invited for questioning. From invitation, they lock you up, and from there, they are charged to court on bogus charges. So we still need to go a long way about this. So the civil society organization, the journalists will not get tired about spotlighting this kind of cases.
Let me quickly come back to the studio. Mr. Kujumi, do you agree with him? The point he made, he says this is normal, but actually also abnormal. And he talked about, him being arrested and then taken to court and all of that process. Did you agree that this is normal, but abnormal?
I disagree with him, absolutely. And it is the fact that when things like this happen to people that, maybe they have political leanings, you will find different narratives to suit, their sentiments. This was a man that was picked up based on the order of a magistrate court. And you also we've heard different reports that defamation has the criminal and the civil aspect. For example, recently, there was a threat to my life by some persons who alleged that I was holding an opinion contrary to the belief of their group. And what was the threat? That they will put me under. And I was like, what is the meaning of under? And I wrote a petition to the police. The police were now looking for how to arrest that person. If it had gotten into the public domain, the next thing they will say is that he defamed me and I used the police to arrest him. Meanwhile, the reason for the police arresting him, if they had succeeded, was because of the threat to life, which was a criminal offense. So in this case, it wasn't just that the police on their own, based on the petition, you recognize that the police must have carried out their own investigation. And in the course of their investigation, which they are allowed to do under law, they have the power to arrest. So the NBA rushing to condemn, I wonder, maybe the NBA is saying the police has become the court, or even Mr. Femi Falana that we heard condemned, I would have been, worried that they would have questioned the jurisdiction of the Ekiti, Ekiti court to hear the matter. But don't forget that the petition by this elder statesman was written to the Ekiti State Commander of the Nigerian Police. So he's instituting the case within the jurisdiction of Ekiti State. So I expect people to put issues in proper perspective. That look, an offense has been alleged to have been committed, and it is the duty of the police to investigate. For you to say the man was abducted, the man was not abducted by the police. The man was arrested based on the order of the magistrate court. That's the information we have as at now.
All right, let's take it to Mr. Lawal. Let's put a few things that are facts. Fact is that a book was written and allegations were made that bordered on defamation, according to Afe Babalola, which is why he petitioned and got this gentleman arrested, taken to Ekiti. But let's talk about what the law says. We know what the criminal code says from 373 to almost 380. It explains the consequence of all of this action. But the worry here is what should be the procedure, which is why we want to get this legal perspective on this issue. He said, Farotimi said, there was never a time he was served to appear in any court in Ekiti. But from what he gathered, they said they instituted a case. He didn't show up a couple of times. That's why a bench warrant was issued for his arrest. He also said that everything he did, said, wrote, and everything he did was in Lagos. Why is he being taken to Ado-Ekiti for prosecution? So I want you to speak to what the law says as far as this particular sequence of events is concerned. If he did commit the crime in Lagos, should he be taken to Ekiti? Allegedly, I must add.
This is a very good question and an interesting one. You see, in as much as I'm trying to avoid making comments on the merits of Dele Farotimi's case, I would like to be very careful in my comment as well so that I will not fall into the same problem that we're complaining about. You see, in law of defamation, whether criminal law or civil law, I would like to establish one principle. The principle is the doctrine of effect. Now, what does it mean? It means where a defamation is alleged, it doesn't matter where the publication was made. You can make a statement in Nigeria and effect can be in America. You can make a publication in Kwara State and effect can be in Lagos. The book written was read or is intended to be read worldwide. And I've stated that the reason in law is the perfect equity. If there is no doctrine of effect, if a book is written in Nigeria and is read, or if it's written, let's limit ourselves to the territorial jurisdiction of Nigeria. If it's written in Kwara State and is read in Osun State, which is now a southern part of Nigeria, which operates criminal law, a criminal code. The criminal code in the south and the civil. So I'm trying to go in line of your question, which is criminal law. Now, in the case of Patrick Njovian versus State, an offense was committed in Kwara State, Bashita. That is the Supreme Court case. They were arrested and brought back from Ibadan. They masterminded the offense in Ibadan, which is armed robbery. So they were arrested and brought back. So what I'm saying in essence is that whether or not the offense is committed in a state, if the effects can be established in another state or the part of the ingredient of that offense, don't forget criminal defamation has to do with the effect itself, not only the publication. So I will disagree with the position being held by some people that if the defamation or if the book was written in the author, did he intend that the book will not be read elsewhere? No. The answer is no, absolutely no. So on that basis, I beg to disagree with the position that he cannot be arrested and taken to Ekiti State. That is just the position on that. I'm not commenting whether or not he has committed the offense, because everyone who is accused of an offense is presumed innocent until contrary is proved in the court of law. But I want to call our attention to another thing. No country, no any system in any country operates in utopia. The fact that when an offense...
My apologies, just to add to it, arrest would naturally suggest that he had refused to appear in court. Is my presumption correct?
That's not correct.
Okay.
That's
because
not correct.
that is his own. I'm putting out his own position. He said they issued a warrant, but he was never served at any time to appear in any court. He reeled out the fact that there are other issues in Lagos, that he appeared in court when he was invited. He was never invited, so why come to arrest him? So I wanted you to speak to the legalese.
That is not the language of the law. You see, one thing I observe about most of these so-called activists, I am saying it with all sense of responsibility, most of them do not practice law. The fact that an offense has been alleged, and as such, maybe a petition has been written against you, and the police deem it necessary in their own independent opinion, feels there is a reasonable suspicion that that offense has been committed. Maybe they have some facts that we do not have. The law does not mandate them to invite you. They can arrest you straight away, because the law says even if there is a reasonable suspicion that offense has been committed, you can be arrested. However, the normal procedure is that investigation comes before arrest. That is what the Supreme Court has been saying in many cases. But if, like lawyers will say, res ipsa licito, for instance, on the offense of defamation of character, of which I do not entirely agree whether or not someone can be arrested for defamation in Ekiti State, because I don't know what their criminal law is saying with respect to defamation, criminal offense of defamation, because the principle is nullum criminal lege. No one can be charged or punished for an offense until that offense is written in the law. So I don't know if the criminal law of Ekiti State provides for defamation. However, if it provides for that, and the police, with the evidence they have with them, they do not need to invite anyone. They can go straight away and arrest. Okay, let's put it in this perspective.
So, Mr. Olaniwaju, is this offense bailable?
Of course.
It's bailable.
Of course. So, there are certain offenses that are not, there is no offense that is not bailable. But there are certain offenses, because of their nature, the law says they are not ordinarily bailable. Because
is this bail, one of them?
Of course, it is part of is one of the offenses that are bailable.
No, using your word now, ordinarily bailable.
It is ordinarily bailable.
Okay.
But at the discretion of the court.
All right, all right. Let's expand this conversation now. We'll come back to you, but let's democratize the conversation and bring it to the journalist. I imagine that there are many lessons for everyone here, particularly for journalists, because we also dance on the fine lines of, conversations that sometimes infringe upon the fundamental human rights of other individuals, sometimes bodies. I'll continue with that line of questioning, but let's take this conversation to the streets now and check on what Nigerians are saying about freedom of expression. Speaking of which, our correspondent, Deborah Agbalama, has is feeling the pulse of some Nigerians on the streets of Port Harcourt. Deborah.
Hello, good morning to you. And from Port Harcourt here, I am right now at a very busy junction, and I'm going to be speaking with Nigerians on what they think about freedom of speech. We all know that this Constitution, Section 5, Section 39 of the Constitution actually states clearly that no matter your religion, your sex, you have the right, your color, you have the right to speak for your opinion to be heard. We don't know if Nigerians are aware of all this. So I'll be calling someone. Just come closer, please. What's your name, please? Come closer. All right?
Yeah.
If you have freedom of speech, so come closer. Don't be scared.
I'm not scared.
All right.
You know, I'm a typical Nigerian man. I'm proud to be a Nigerian. Very, very proud.
What's your name, first of all? Timothy who?
Teller.
Okay, Timothy Teller. Freedom of speech. What do you understand by that term?
Freedom of speech is a word that you can express your feelings whatsoever you are passing to the government or in any society or organization. So you speak up and they will understand you over whatsoever you are passing to. That's what I understand. Or freedom of speech.
Okay.
But in this our country, there are the calibers of people that works for them. If you are in one class in Nigeria, doesn't work. When I will say it works, but doesn't work. That's the calibers of people that's work for them. That's the about it.
Can you give us an example where it didn't work for the low class that you remember?
Why it doesn't work for the low classes?
Where an example, like where did you find out that it didn't? A low class person spoke and was victimized. Can you just give us an example?
Actually, I am one of them. I don't want to go far. I'm one of them.
Tell us about it.
There was a time I lost a lot of things, my property. So because I explained it, they said, no, it's not like that. I just say, wow. So because the other person that we are dragging talks with is a high-class man. So we on such kind of a lawyer or whatever, I'm really down. So I don't know, I don't have anybody to stand by me. So I just talk them as I see that I'm not going anywhere. I just keep up.
Okay. So in other words, you spoke out that whatever you were talking about was yours.
Yeah.
And then because the other person's voice was louder. Okay.
I don't consider that speech. So that's why I say it doesn't work much. Yeah. Work 9 class.
Okay. Are you on social media though?
I was
okay. Well, but in your own take, what do you think that when it comes to social media activities, Nigerians quite have that freedom of speech because they can call the government out any day, anytime?
Yes.
What's your take on it?
If those social media, they are trying their best. That's clear to it. They are trying their best to make sure that everybody to speak up their mind and to make sure that government have those voice. For instance, even those people that are doing protest, all those social media work over it and say a lot of words so that those people will be free. If not part of those social media, I believe that some of them are still using them. But it's because of those social media, they speak out. That's why they are free now, some of them.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Timothy thinks that we still have a long way to go, even though he believes that the social media has some kind of edge and people are speaking up. I have someone else who's standing by to talk, so perhaps we'll go back to the studio so I can change the person.
All right, Deborah, we'll get back to you, but so many lessons to learn from that space. Speaking of lessons, let me land on the initial question just before we went to Deborah, and I'm coming to you now, Mr. Yakubu. What are the lessons for journalists? Because we're also very active in that space in terms of, how events like this, shape conversations that impact on the rights of individuals and corporate organizations. So what should journalists be deducing from this?
So,
Mr. Mohammed, that's for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, one thing I would say is that journalists should always, like we argue in one of the events we had last week, self-censorship is very important, right? And when we talk about journalists, we need to put it in a proper context, right? Are they really journalists or somebody who call himself a blogger? So there are code of ethics, right? When you are reporting about someone or an issue or an organization, there are code of ethics that should guide you. So in all, one thing I believe is with what the Mr. Lawal said, I believe that journalists also need to fill some knowledge gap, right? By making research very well before, taking words from the street or from online conversation. So all boils down to self-censorship to avoid things that could land you in court, which could also, expose how you are not knowledgeable about what you're reporting on.
Right. I think it's also important to reiterate that this is not about journalists, right? We are basically putting these issues to light. And I want us to speak to, quickly, that's for you, Mr. Yakubu. We've had journalists being held incommunicado for days. People had to go on social media to call for them. Daniel Ujuku, one of them. We've had Fisa Shoyombo recently. So the procedure of security agencies in issues like this, or generally when they want to make arrests or when there is a case instituted, is also being called into question. This was brought to light because it's a popular person, and I think you mentioned that. So what happens to others who probably aren't popular on social media? And I think that's the point we also need to raise here, the procedure. We need to be sure that the security operatives are above board. So quickly, is that something you want to speak to before I come here to our studio?
Okay, so when we talk about the procedures now, so we may not even know. I believe you were at the event of CGI Day last week. A senior police officer was there and we were asking him, what are the procedures before you arrest somebody? And he was saying he cannot disclose the operational strategies or whatsoever. So now, I will not call it a knowledge gap, but there are things we don't even know. Somebody can be arrested about what you don't even know. A petition can be written against you, and you are not even in the know of anything. So now, my other colleague said there must be investigation before arrest. But it is in some cases when after you are arrested that the police start saying they are investigating the matter. So, to my knowledge, the best of my knowledge, I don't believe that we are even aware about the procedures. If a police officer we know that should tell us about this is saying that he cannot disclose this publicly. So the procedures is what we should spotlight.
Exactly.
We should have a further conversation about.
Because what we have sometimes is people just doing anything and all in the name of arrest or court order. But let's come to you, Mr. Kujimi, as we wind down. I recall one of the supporters of the APC had an issue recently. He was arrested. His username, PST Okeze Onsogbo on social media. And, he went through that as well. And some were like, well, this can really happen to anybody, which is why we need to ensure that we pressure the police to ensure the right things are done. So you don't say you're acting in a court order, you confiscate mobile phones, harass people or assault people all in the name of arrest, because it could be anybody at any point. So your final thoughts on this one?
My final thought is that as a people, we need to recognize the fact that every right comes with responsibility, whether as citizens or as law enforcement officers. If the court has given an order, it is within the responsibility of the law enforcement agencies to carry out that order. So
maybe will the court say that detain this person incommunicado for days?
The court can order your arrest, and there are days that is allowed under law for the security agencies to go beyond those days allowed under law for you to be detained. They must obtain the order of the court. They must get an extension. We all know we have had cases of persons who have been detained beyond the statutorily approved days by the Constitution. And we know they get justice from the court. So it is for us to admonish ourselves, because what we are talking about here is something that could have happened to any one of us. And sadly, people take this freedom of expression as a license for lawlessness, because you have the right to hold an opinion does not mean you have a right to injure my own dignity as a person based on your opinion. Even holding that opinion yourself can be injurious to you, because you can hold an opinion that could lead you to commit acts that violates the laws of the land. So in expressing that freedom of expression, we need to be conversant with what does the law says. Where does
the time on the program?
Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll take a break now. When we return, wait for it. You don't want to miss this next conversation. We'll be right back.
Well, let's talk security right now. I mean, it's a Yuletide, there's a lot of things happening, and it's important to ensure that you're security conscious. We're going to be speaking with security consultant Adeniyi, CEO, Barricade Executive Protection. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Mr. Adeniyi. All right. I don't know if that's a security response, but let's get right into it, Mr. Adeniyi. What are some of the things to be on the lookout for? I mean, we had the situation in the northern part of the country, for example, where explosives were planted on the road. Now, that's something we see from time to time. Yes, the military has responded. So there are hotbeds in the country where you clearly need to be very careful. But there are other areas where people just take things for granted. So as we wind down the year, what are some of the trends you have seen that you'd like people to be aware of? Right, Mr. Adeniyi, if you can hear me, please confirm.
Yeah, you know.
Great. I was starting with a general conversation around security in the country before we delve into, safety at the workplace, which we'll get into. But generally speaking, what are the trends you'd like people to know about security-wise in the country?
Okay. For security awareness in the country, and considering the time that we are in this period, I would like to encourage every citizen to pay attention to what we call the situational awareness. Situational awareness is a skill that every citizen, everyone should have, which is paying close attention to people, paying close attention to vehicle, paying close attention to environment, atmosphere, body language of people around them. So it's if everyone at this point in time and way forward practices situational awareness, we are likely to ensure that we detect crime from happening, because that's the advantage of situational awareness. What situational awareness does is to detect crime from happening using intelligence over muscle power. And what's it called? Detecting crime from happening, deterring it from happening, and using intelligence over muscle power. So I would encourage everyone to practice situational awareness. And in practicing situational awareness, how do we implement situational awareness? How every citizen, employee, everyone should implement situational awareness is by paying close observation. Close observation. There are about 5 principles, 5 ways of implementing situational awareness in this season and way forward. And the first I will give today is paying what? Close observation. And in paying close observation, there are 2 ways to do that. The first thing is the scanning technique. The scanning technique, before you enter into a place, try and look around, look at your environment. Even while driving, pay attention to the vehicles coming behind you by making use of your rear mirrors and all your mirrors, paying attention of that. Before you enter into your office, you enter into your house, pay attention, observation. Just do a close observation. I've always encouraged people that even when you get to the car lot, you want to get into your car, don't just open the vehicle. First thing you want to do is to look around. Look around before you then open the vehicle. So observation is key by using what we call the scanning technique. The second thing I would say here is making what we call the KIMS, K-I-M-S, keep in memory system. Whatever you observed, keep it in your system. We call it keep in memory system. So whatever you have paid attention to, observed, because it may need you, should in case it finally develop wings and it becomes a crime or it becomes something that the police have to come in, whatever you have kept in memory is what you're going to recall. So observation is key in implementing situational awareness. The next thing that is very key for everyone to pay attention to is what we call memory retention. It's not enough for you to be observant. You must be able to recall what you had observed at a time when it is needed. So what are we talking about? How tall is the person? How short is the person? What is the person wearing? What vehicle are they driving? What plate number? What color? What was the color of the vehicle? What is the make of the vehicle? What's the model of the vehicle? In your office, how did you leave the office yesterday? When you go back to the office today, what is different? Don't just get into starting your day. When you get to your office or when you wake up in the morning, the first thing was for homemakers. You want to pay attention to your burglary proof. You want to pay attention to your doorknobs. You want to pay attention to your settings. You want to see how you left it yesterday. Is that the same way it is? The same thing in the office. So memory retention, observation, memory retention. The next thing I'm also going to talk about is what we call the environment, reading environment and behaviors. Reading environment and behaviors. If every one of us learn to do this, honestly, we are going to prevent crime from happening. By reading an environment, pay attention to the people around your environment, your gates, your estates, your community. Pay attention to them. If you notice someone you had not seen for a couple of times, ask the security, ask your neighbor, ask community people around you. Oh, I saw this particular person. Have you seen him in this environment before? That is reading your environment and behaviors. It has happened to me on several occasions. Probably I got back to my house and I noticed somebody is sitting by the curb. And as I drive in, I call the security. Who is the person sitting by the curb? Do you know the person? How long has the person been there? Then also, of course, making use of technology. If you have CCTV in your home, in your office, it's a very good thing you can always refer back to.
Mr. Adeniyi.
To check, when did this person get to this place? Who is this person?
Right. Essentially, if you see something, say something. We cannot exhaust these issues, but let me quickly just try to test my memory retention. You're about 6'4", 6'5", wearing a red tie, well-chiseled hair, black eyes. Am I trying?
When I talk about memory retention
I'm retaining you. I'm talking about you. I'm trying to see if I can retain what I'm saying about you. But it's okay. We just want to tell our viewers that this is something we'll do from time to time, helping them with security awareness. But we'll have to thank you so much, Mr. Ademola Adetuberu, security consultant, CEO, Barricade Executive Protection. Thank you for your time. Maybe next time we'll talk about self-defense, how people should, defend themselves, whether or not they should learn self-defense techniques. But thank you for arming us with these very vital information. And hopefully next time we'll have a more robust conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so memory retention all the way. We'll take a moment now. Stay with us right here. We'll be right back.
In the era of sustainable energy, in the era of recycling things, in the era of just looking for a way to help our environment and do the best we can to even make money in the process, we need to start having very serious conversations about things we naturally look away from. Things like converting waste to things that are resourceful and all of the things in between as far as that conversion is concerned. I'm deliberately using the word conversion for general frame of reference, but the person who is going to break it down for us is right here with us. Omolade Ogundimo is the CEO. Mo Studio, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Mo Studio. Nice to meet you. Good morning. My name
Good morning. You know, I spoke plenty grammar. So you help me break down that grammar as to what it is that you do in terms of what is regarded as sustainable craftsmanship.
Right. So I'm actually an artist and designer. I'm a furniture designer. So I studied interior design. I actually studied law before I pivoted into interior design and arts. And so for the last couple of years, I've been working on a process on how to work on waste wood board and reclaimed wood. I noticed that there have been a lot of waste wood when you have old cabinetry, old wardrobes that are just lying around the road, lying at the back of your house. Where do they go? What do we do with them? And so I was trying to come up with a formula that was not only globally understood, but also aesthetically pleasing at the same time. And so pivoting away from what I do, which is fiber art and textile art, I decided to explore furniture design. And in that case, I wanted to see what can we do with that wood? What can we do with that waste? And how can we transform it? And so I decided to go to the past. So a lot of my inspiration was taken from old buildings. You have a lot of mosaic tile inspiration from old architecture. You're thinking Lagos Island, you're thinking old buildings in Surulere. A lot of those architecture, a lot of the things we enjoyed had a lot of personality. And I said, how can we bring that design back? How can we bring it back to what we have today? And I wanted to encapsulate the memories of that, but still preserve the life of these waste wood. I mean, as we all know, there is almost 13,000 tons of waste generated in Lagos today.
About 15,000 actually.
Even now more.
Yeah.
And by 2050, I don't know where we would be, unfortunately. So the next question now becomes, what do we do with these things? And they are not biodegradable. So where do they go? How can we transform them? And so this is my own little contribution to that quota. How can I change the narrative? How can I still do what I want to do, but, you know, reduce our carbon footprint at the end of the day?
And so some
changing the world, literally.
They're beautiful and they come with a lot of aesthetics.
Yes.
No, but beyond the use of these, you know, for decorations, exhibitions, what is the usability factor for a household of these items?
So the furniture, for example, those are actually furniture pieces. They are coffee tables, side tables that you can use. They have long durability time. So there is, in terms of like usability there. And then in terms of the rugs that we started manufacturing, which was a process I learned by myself actually online. And I learned that after shortly coming out of school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I came up with a formula that required me using locally produced yarn, which is Yeye Yarn Nigeria. And the durability is actually quite impressive. I've had rugs that I've made almost 4 years ago that still somehow stand the test of time, and they've been made locally as well. So in terms of functionality, usability, it's not just an aesthetic, it's actually a functional piece of furniture.
So those are the rugs that we saw there.
Yes.
Some people express concerns about rugs that they gather dust and they're not particularly good for respiratory functions for certain individuals. Or limitations in that regard. What is the adaptability value of some of the things that you do, like the rugs?
So like the rugs, for example. So they come in different forms. You can use them for anything. These are just the fiber artworks that are on the wall. We also have the ones that are for the flooring. So you have, you know, brand logos. We've worked with a number of brands in Nigeria as well, manufacturing rugs for them, for their offices, for their companies, for their showrooms, and things like that. So it's not just about something looking pretty somewhere packing dust, and they're also quite easy to maintain at the end of the day.
So I'd like you to talk about the affordability as well.
Right.
Because art, if it's art, then it shouldn't be cheap, right? If it's creative, it shouldn't be cheap, but it should also be affordable, right? Because trying to make life easy.
It's on your like.
I mean, on the conversation of affordability, right, that one is definitely debatable, especially because we're talking slow production, we're talking craftsmanship, we're talking locally made items that we're trying to meet that industry standard, we're trying to meet that Western standard, and it's going to cost money. The production alone is quite high. So the markup price of what we're retailing at is also relatively high. But then again, it's a small price to pay for supporting the Nigerian ecosystem. Personally, I believe that our economic revolution is very much dependent on our arts and culture. So why don't we invest in that?
So you're one of those who should increase your tax to 25%, right?
I mean,
the way you're sounding like, but it's like it's not an all-commerce thing, right?
No, so it's not all commerce, right? But at the end of the day, it's really about building into what we already have. how much are we even spending importing? I know how much people spend to import. So what would it take you putting in that same energy in Nigerian-made products?
I think you have a really valid argument. It's you sort of coming through the emotional angle and you make it nationalistic. Then you also say, hey, it's handcrafted. But speak to us about your creative process.
Right.
I see some of the things you do. I'm not sure you're Gen Z or Gen Alpha.
Let's remain ambiguous.
Or Boomer, definitely not Boomer. But the point is, some of the things you're creating definitely may not have been something you grew up or something in your generation, really.
Right.
So you're probably tapping into the past, as you said.
Yes.
So what's your creative process like?
Right.
Give us a time frame, and then some of the fears, some of the challenges you face.
Right. So in terms of my creative process, I do a lot of field study. So I do a lot of sightseeing, I do a lot of visits, I visit locations often, I take inspiration. And growing up, surprisingly, my family and I used to go to Cotonou a lot every year. And that was also another thing where I saw how they were doing the architecture. I came back to Nigeria, saw they were doing the architecture. And I think it's sad how we've moved away from having design that was very much character filled to like the mundane, minimalist, white, gray, bland aesthetic.
They'll come for you.
They'll come for me. I know. I'm sorry, but we still have to pay homage back to the past at the end of the day. But my creative process basically starts from a lot of field study, lots of observation, and I do a lot of research at the end of the day, because in as much as art is aesthetically pleasing, you need to be knowledgeable about what it is you're trying to talk about through your work.
So, just because you want to buy.
But I want to buy before I say something.
I told Bukola something. I said that's why I was processing Bukola. I told her that anything I want to buy that I like, that is too expensive for my paycheck, is not the will of God. So I don't know whether yours is the will of God for my life.
No, I'm definitely sure it is the will of God.
Talk to us.
There you go, salesperson. Right there.
I saw a couple of young people. I don't know whether you work with young people. For instance, someone wants to learn this from you, because it's an important conversation we're having, even if it's fun and all of that. We just came back from COP, not me, our correspondent. But the world gathered in Azerbaijan to talk about this issue of climate change and all of the emission issues. So what you're doing is important to us and the world. In the learning, in teaching young people, have you been able to, how successful have you been? Are you doing that already?
Yes.
How long does it take for them to learn this thing? And how passionate are they about what you do?
So in terms of learning, I actually kickstarted a school last year for teaching rug making and tufting, which is a new modern process of learning how to make rugs. So it's very nouveau, and it's a lot of me having to now teach them the technical know-how. It was hectic in the beginning, but I will say I'm still not where I want to be. Currently, I only have maximum capacity of 3 students at a time. And you're thinking about the cost of also the machinery and equipment we're using to teach them. How long is the class going to take? How long is it going to take for them to actually learn? So I'm doing my own bit at a small scale, but do I wish that we could do this on a larger scale? Do I wish that we could have a bigger conversation about it? Absolutely. But I think it takes you putting your own foot forward first and then seeing how others can also contribute and collaborate.
Speaking of where you want to be in a short while from now, how expansive is that space in your mental disposition? And what are the things, the elements that you think that government can support with in terms of helping to expand the space for entrepreneurs like you? And while you're speaking to that, perhaps you may also want to tell them what they're missing, in terms of buying what is made in Nigeria.
So in terms of like where we're at or where we want to be, the vision is to obviously have a household name. The vision is to have a platform that has homeware. I'm talking scaling from furniture to even plates, to even cutlery, to even carpets, just everything as a whole. You see brands like IKEA who have the whole fort. Why can't we also push the narrative and also get to that point? In terms of what the government can do, I think there's a lot they can do in terms of like having opportunities available for entrepreneurs to liaise. Are there associations we can join? Are there conversations we can have? Because I'm just one person, but I know that a collective voice will always be stronger at the end of the day. I alone cannot speak to the government. So how can we build those associations? How can we form that collective voice and get our needs met? That's the real conversation.
I'm curious about how you, your life journey, your origin story. You're not a billionaire, you're a superhero, right? So I'm curious, in terms of education and support, because most people, you studied law, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So I'm not sure what family thinks about this. You could be in court helping us with election cases and bringing in billions. So how did you approach this? How did you get funding as well? Because I see your events and I'm like, I try to do a costing in my head. I'll tell you how much it is. So is it that you have backing? You have a hedge fund that is supporting you?
Surprisingly, so I actually studied law in the United Kingdom, funny enough, and I think that is where the conversation started, from me wanting to come home. I wanted to come home. I wanted to be home.
That's
exactly. I wanted to reverse my Jaqua, and I really wanted to find a way to find my footing here without having to feel like I have to depend on that experience. And so towards the end of my journey, like into law, I started realizing, okay, there's something more I want to do. There's a bigger conversation that I want to have. I want to go home. I want to create something. I want to make an impact. It's not just about me making my pounds over there or, doing what I'm doing over there. So me coming back home, having to think about something more innovative, that's what sparked that. In terms of funding, everything is completely bootstrapped. In fact, the carpet making was what funded the furniture. So we've been doing that for 3 years now, right? We've made almost 200 rugs, and this is locally made, and we're just a team of 2. Myself and someone else.
2 people?
Yes. So I physically make the rugs myself. So me and someone else.
So you get your hands dirty.
So I have an interesting question.
Right.
And this is for the experience, the Jackpada experience.
Right.
For those who would not touch Nigeria again with a 10-foot pole, what would you say to them?
Maybe they will do it with 5'4".
Honestly, first of all, I would say heal. They have to heal from whatever it is they feel like Nigeria may have taken away from them. They have to remove that resentment first before they even see it as a viable platform in the first place. I moved on from whatever Nigeria did to me, and I'm like, okay, I'm still in Nigeria at the end of the day. How can I grow my love for this country regardless?
Was it Nigeria that did it to them, or let's say maybe an agency or a person or a group of people? Is it fair to always lump it on?
Well, Nigeria is Nigerians. Let's just put it like that. Nigeria is the people. So if someone has an experience from a Nigerian or from other Nigerians that affects, it is a Nigerian experience.
It's not fair, right?
I mean, in a way, it kind of is. I would not like it's valid.
It's called the Nigerian factor. But in closing, I can see that already, but I need you to do a bit of an explainer how your legal practice or your knowledge of the law has helped you in your business.
Right.
Because I know that your things are not cheap, so
no, they're affordable. They're the will of God for some people.
The will of God for some people. Yes. But in terms of my legal practice, in fact, I can't stress how blessed I am to have done that. Most times when you're in the creative space, people think it's all flowery rainbows, but there's a lot of contract signing, there's a lot of deals, there's a lot of agreements. And initially when I started, before I even had my own personal lawyer, I was the one doing the contract reading, and they don't know this. So when you're dealing with other creative industries, they don't know that I'm aware of it. So when I read a contract, I'm seeing some funny things, I'm like, no, this isn't how it's supposed to be, and then I can easily just vet that. So I think everyone should have that legal assist.
I asked that question because I wanted to be clear for you to communicate that education is not scam.
No, absolutely not. I root for education always.
I have to ask, what are you working on right now? I don't know how you do it. So do you get your hands dirty?
Yes,
right?
I do. So
you're leaving the show?
Yes.
So what are you working on right now?
So right now, I mean, I've done a couple of exhibitions this year already. I'm closed for the year. Right now, I'm not working on anything. I'm resting.
Somebody has made money.
So that means you're cashed out now.
No, but rest is regardless.
Only somebody that has cashed out can rest too. So you need to see your bank account.
No, it's not, no.
No, we're reforming the tax law. So maybe you're part of those who will capture, Anyway, Omolade Ogundimo, CEO, Moss Studio, right?
Yes.
I want to be sure I pronounce it correctly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
And thank you for helping the environment.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure it's the will of God.
Amen to that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you another leg of the conversation. It's just getting interesting. Join us again.
An apt way to usher us into this next segment, which is how to turn challenges into opportunities, how to turn setbacks into comebacks. And I'm particularly excited about this segment because of the power of words to reflate an individual who is in a pit. So joining us to have this conversation this morning is Mr. Oluwatobi Olarinde, who is a human development enthusiast, motivational speaker, published author. He joins us here in our Lagos studio. Mr. Olarinde, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
So we are to motivate Nigeria even out of where she is now and up to the mountaintop. But we'll talk about, speaking life into Nigeria. Let's speak into the life of the individual in Nigeria, and it's very important because very many people are in a low place right now for obvious reasons. But for some people who are very, very low, perhaps deep down in the pit, how do they even begin to come back, to the top of the pit before they get to the mountaintop?
Okay, so for me, I feel like what people should know first is that you have to recognize that you're actually down there. Because so many people are in a particular state and they're so comfortable with it, so they don't realize it. They want to have people pity them, have people hand over meals to them and all of that. I understand the technicality of how the country is, but the truth is, there's something they say on the street: nobody's coming to save you at the end of the day. But you must first be aware that I am low, I am where I am. And if you recognize that, you now want to say, how do I get out of this place? That's where the question comes in. How? The how is, I know that this thing does not please me, or this thing is not taking me further, or this thing is not helping my mind. I would now start to change my mindset. I would now start to say, okay, what are things that I am doing right now that are keeping me in that current position that I am? If you recognize that, you're the one actually debarring yourself from moving to that place, to the top, as we call it, then you are halfway through the process.
But complacency is one thing. Mental ill health is another. Yes. Is motivational speaking also recommended for those who are depressed, for want of better expression?
Yes. So, for example, I speak to a lot of people who subscribe to coaching, wanting to tell you their stories, wanting to get a way out of these situations they are in. We can, as motivational speakers, we can motivate you out of that current situation that you're in. But you see, in life, you can only talk people out of situations. The willingness and the preparedness for them to want to leave that situation is another thing. So when you're talking to somebody who has maybe a mental health problem, I'm very big on people having right mental health, I would say, these are the things you need to do. These are the things you need to do. If you need to talk to me about this, about situation, about your day-to-day life, talk to me. But if I see that it is now beyond motivational speaking, there are people who are in charge of these things. There are practitioners who are therapists that can now tell you all the things you can do beyond motivation.
So let's see how you can help the average Nigerian.
Okay.
The average Nigerian deals with the same thing.
Yes.
High cost of living, inflation numbers.
Yes.
Life is so difficult. A lot of people literally struggling. In fact, we're doing some analytics. Before now, if you earn 200,000, it sounded like you're coasting towards the middle class. But now 500,000, you're even on the lower web, if not literally poor. And so people are dealing with all of these challenges. Some and combat with other domestic challenges. So if you were to speak to an average Nigerian young person who is looking at the country and is just despondent, what would you be saying to them?
So I would say that don't give up yet. It's not the right time to give up. It's now time for you to look inwards, look within yourself. What is that thing that makes you want to stand up from your bed every morning? What is your vision? What is your passion? What is that thing that is making you say, I know that I want to be successful. If you look beyond all of the problems and start looking inwards and seeing things that can actually give you solution. I mean, all of us seated here, not like you said, 200,000 right now is, I mean, how much is the bag of rice? But if that is my motivating factor, then there might be a problem. So I have to look for ways to create maybe business opportunities. Even if the business, people say businesses are not thriving and all that, but people still make it right in this country. People still gather skills for the future. It's not like you want to get it right now and right there. You just have to keep building that self-confidence, that power that comes from within. Not taking into, consideration that, oh, this person is going to help me out of this situation. Yes, if you need to speak to people who can help you out of situations, please do. But beyond that, believe in yourself. That self-belief is, for me, the motivating factor that will help you faster than even speaking to other people. Because once you want to speak to somebody, you want to tell them about things that you need. How do you articulate your points, telling them what you want them to do for you? Some people are just down there, like I said, the pity card and all that. But the truth is, everybody you want to talk to up there is going through something. The employers of labor, the cost of fueling and all of that is eating up everybody. But what keeps those people at the top going? They also don't want to come down. So you should also consider yourself moving upward, but building that self-power to, increase your life.
It's interesting, really, because we've come quite a long way. Yes. There was a time that motivation was a big thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking 10, 15 years ago. If there was any event, you had motivational speakers, the halls would be packed. And then after some time, a lot of people started losing interest. From the losing interest, started getting angry at motivational speakers, and that's how we have these aspire to be boy, and people just make fun of it. For some of them, they attended these events, they listened to motivational speakers so much, and they thought that things were going to change for them. And they look at their lives down the line and they say, well, things have not gotten better. So they blame the motivational speakers or the life coaches and say, all the things you taught me clearly aren't working in real life. Fela Durte, for example, has come under a lot of attack. If I had to come out recently and say, I'm no more working in government, I didn't even get money in government. Prior to that, all the things I've taught, I've really worked for people who have used it. So my question is, what is usually the challenge that people who get these life skills, who listen to motivational speakers, are not able to translate that into results in real life? What is usually missing?
Okay. So I think that what is missing for me is, if you attend a conference that they are motivating you, first, what's your motive? People go to say, the humans generally, and there's something I joke with outside, I say they want Jehovah sharp. They want things to move fast. If I talk to you now, in 2 weeks, you should make 1 billion. But they forget that there is actually a process. So the missing link is them understanding that it takes step by step to build a house. You can't roof the house before you lay the foundation. So if you are ready and willing to follow the process, which most Nigerians and most people all over the world don't want to, then you get there. Another thing that discourages people from motivational speakers is that a lot of us are out there, and some people are out there motivating people, but for selfish reasons.
All right.
They want to make all of the money. That's why you see maybe a speaking conference and they tell you to come and to attend, maybe you pay 300,000. The current reality, how do you pay that? So people look at it. People, for example, I have something called Protege, mentor-mentee kind of program. I've done it in the past where I talk to people from different fields. I do it for free. I bring my guys and say, okay, see, I want this person to be under you so you can teach this person this thing. So if we start looking for, a lot of people, even Fela Durte has done so many free things. But free things sometimes will not pay your bills, I know. But if you can see how to uplift people, those people in turn, in the nearest future, might not be directly them, they would also pay you back. So if we understand this in the industry of motivational speaking, that it's not all about master class, come and pay 50 million and all of that, then people will not be discouraged. Because if I pay you 50 million naira now, I want to see the results very fast.
I want to get 200 million.
Yeah. So I think that's what the problem is.
You know, and so for Nigerians who are saying, oh, motivational speakers tell us there's always opportunities, you know, for a comeback, setbacks are for comebacks and all of that. And they're saying, where is that opportunity? You know, for instance, a barber, you know, who has a shop and has a small generator, petrol is 1,040 naira per liter.
Yes.
You know, that's just in the southwest. It could be higher in the north. For the, a hairstylist who is saying there are no customers because of the same reason. They have to pay so many bills. You know, just to mention a few, manufacturers are complaining high cost of diesel. Where are the opportunities? Are those opportunities there that they cannot see them? So what would you say to, Nigerians on the low rung of the ladder?
So the opportunities are there. It's just for you to open up your mind. By opening up your mind, I said earlier that you need to speak to somebody. For example, if I go to a barber or a barber's shop, I tell him, oh, I like what you're doing. I say, there's no funding and all of that. I say, okay, can I start making videos of you barbing people and post on maybe my WhatsApp status so that people can actually approach you? We have barbers who do not now sit in the shop anymore. They found that sitting in the shop is fine, but home service pays better. So looking for clients is one major thing that people who are doing any type of business should, focus on, to see that, okay, I'm here right now, I can't afford to turn on my gen for this certain number of hours. How can you enter into partnership? Who are these people who need your service? Because people who need your service, you have to go to them. Most times we sit in the comfort of our offices and all and believe that markets will come. But you see, that's why those who are marketing professionals know that there's power in marketing. So even in your local street and all of that, people should actually know that, okay, this guy is good. And the power of recommendation, people talking about your business, goes a long way. But if you sit there and you're not talking to anybody, you don't have a good rapport with people on the street and all of that, it brings you to just that state.
Well, I think that's just about the best way to, to look at life in general as an individual. But one more question before I just let you go. Kayode had asked it.
Okay.
How enterprising is it what you do? Because we brought you here, of course, it's a business. How enterprising is it?
Okay, so it's when you get clients, we go to clients, we also do adverts to say, okay, you can speak to me if you have this issue, if you have that issue, and for a fee, I could listen to you and I could provide solution to whatever challenge you're going through. So for those who take it seriously as a business and try to market, they get clients. So marketing this thing.
So you guys market it?
Yes. Okay. That's like the new oil. You have to market your product.
Okay.
Speaking of opportunities abound also in the motivational speaking space.
True.
So Nigerians can expand their horizon. True. Well, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the show. We've been talking with Mr. Oluwatobi Olarinde, a human development enthusiast, motivational speaker, and published author. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
When we return from this break, we're going to explore another aspect of the creative space. It's a bumper package, as I say, so stay with the Morning Brief. We'll be right back.
woman behind those images joins us right here on the show. Elena Adeniyi, photographer, is our guest on the Morning Brief. Hi, Elena.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
It's great to have you. I was asking before we came on board. Do you sleep with your camera on the bed, like, stay right here?
Yes, I do. It's right next to me, so I always look at it every day.
And it's understandable. And seeing some of your pictures, it's just mind-blowing, breathtaking. So walk us through first your creative process.
Okay.
First, you're a lady doing great stuff.
Oh, thank you.
In that sector. So clearly, you're exceptional, right? For you to be able to get to this point. So walk us through your creative process.
Okay, so basically, well, my name is Elena Adeniyi. I started photography about 6 years ago, and that's more fashion forward, but I've been taking photos for about 8 years. How I kind of started was when I was in SS1, I did photography as a subject, and I had gotten a camera for Christmas from my mum because she saw how interested I was in it.
Thank you, Mommy.
Thank you, Mommy. And then from there, I would just always take photos of my friends, you know, of nature. I really just would go around the neighborhood. And then over time, I really just enjoyed capturing that moment. I think my main thing was being able to see something, you know, in real life and take a photo of it and hold that memory forever. So over time, I've just been like getting more into fashion photography, lifestyle, but then also trying to showcase and tell a story with my photos.
If you were to do a short course for people who are photographers or people who just want to photograph anything, because we all have these mobile phones that are so powerful, 4K phones.
8K.
Just walk on 8K. It is a techie. What would you tell us? When you see, for instance, you're seeing us seated, what should be the consideration in putting, because for some of us to just pick the camera and start snapping, what should we be looking at to give us that image?
I think definitely framing. Framing is very important, just being able to know, because some people might be like, okay, I'll take the photos from this high angle, but then it won't really capture everyone in the best light. So trying to find a way to get everyone's like right side is the best thing.
Is that all?
I think that's just the main thing to know is when you get that, you know, obviously post production you can do editing and coloring, but it's positioning them in a good way and then just like, you know, moving about or maybe moving people like, you know, color wise, like, you know, I might put you in the middle because you've got the pink and they've both got like darker colors, so making you stand out more. So just little tips like that is what to pick up on.
So color plays an
color,
a role.
A role in,
Okay, so you started photographing in SS1, right? So that tells me that you did your secondary school in Nigeria. You had a secondary school in Nigeria. But where did you train?
I don't really have any formal training, but I've done I like to read lots of photography books, you know, like to watch lots of YouTube videos. But then over time, I was in secondary school for Nigeria, but I went back to Australia. So even that, I've been around lots of photographers, have lots of mentors, like my older siblings, they're in the creative field as well. So I feel like that's also inspired me to, you know, just keep doing what I'm doing and just keep practicing.
So you've practiced a lot in Australia?
Yes, I have,
So you're not particularly familiar with the Nigerian approach to photography, the olden days type of photography, where the photographer would lie down and then they would go on the rooftop, maybe lie down on a car just to get.
But better than that, better than that.
I think that's an aside. But talk to us about your subjects. What are the subjects that most interests you in photography?
I think definitely it would be people. Like my main thing is just being able to just like I said before, tell a story time, like explain like, okay, what's happening here, you know, how did I come up with this? It's more so thinking of a theme and then I'm like, okay, who would be the best model, who would be the best fit, and then just trying to showcase that. In saying so, it kind of plays into like an exhibition I'm actually hosting this Saturday in Lagos, so that's the main reason I wanted to come back like home and just have an exhibition with people. And the theme for that was Lagos waterways and fashion, but in time so it was also showcasing like people and the creative side of everything. So one way or another, people is my main thing I like to capture.
How welcoming has it been for you?
It's been very welcoming. I would say I'm like quite blessed as well. Like everyone I've worked with while I've been shooting here, because all the photos that I'll be exhibiting this week have been just like shot here in the past couple of weeks. So being able to go out to the beach, you know, working with lots of models, makeup artists and hairstylists, everyone has been very welcoming. When I message them on Instagram, they've all been like, yes, I'm very excited. I'm so down for that. So that's really good.
So
go ahead, just a second. I need your help,
okay, no
Elena. So My camera is on.
Yes.
So I want you to take a picture.
Okay.
I want to show that friend. You tell them to take pictures of you.
Oh my God.
And they're done. And then you're like, I'm not even in this. What are you? What's going on?
No.
So
no, don't give it to your mothers.
Okay, no problem.
I'd like you to take a picture, just real time
the best
of me,
way.
maybe.
No, you can be seated.
Okay, no
We're
problem.
literally practicing your.
Because there's a rule of
your
third, all
Yeah.
those things. So please, I need to show that my friend. So please,
How to
let me
take a photo.
Just go ahead. We'll just
can
be
take a
talking through
picture
it. So,
of
for
me,
instance, now
right?
you're holding the camera. He's
Yes.
seated. He's
Okay.
posing. He's wearing blue.
The best thing to do is, would you like your photo from like here up or from your waist up?
Anyhow.
Okay,
You're the
no
expert
problem.
here.
I would say the best thing to do is usually tap there, and then you can kind of adjust the lighting to like a bit dark or a bit lighter, and then you just go take one. And then I always say the best thing, you can never take too many photos, well, depending on your storage though, but kind of from there, and I'll just take one more so you have a lot of variety, and then boom, here you go. Hopefully you like them.
Okay.
I know
Also,
that's instructive for ladies
Thank
because
you.
when,
No problem.
when we look at our photo the first time, we're not satisfied. Okay, take another one.
Yes,
Take another, take another one. So let's talk about something else, which is also part of what photographers do.
Yeah.
It's about balancing what the picture actually says with special effects.
Okay, yes.
So there's a lot of deployment of special effects to photos, but what does it do, to the overall outcome, by taking away what was actually natural to the subject of the photograph?
Okay, no problem. So I think with special effects in photography, it's kind of if you're looking to shoot a certain type of way, you know how sometimes you can take a photo of something and then they add in like, props behind, all these kind of things. If let's say you're shooting in a studio like this and you want to showcase the beach, but you want to shoot in the studio, I think that's when special effects comes into play, because it's more so, okay, you add in the water there, the sand there, but then in my style of editing, I try to keep it as natural or as possible and minimal. I usually shoot on film or digital, so that film alone, like that photo was on film, so that adds in its own effect. So I try not to keep it, too far-fetched from what I've done. But I do know that, the help of special effects, especially during this time and age, is very helpful. Yeah.
Brilliant. So walk us through what to expect. You filmed in Lagos.
Yes.
Lagos is such a beautiful place.
Very.
I can tell you, as a creative, you shouldn't lack content.
Yeah.
If you're in Lagos. So what do we expect? And I imagine you had some challenges. If you had to shoot outdoor, I don't know if you shot outdoor a lot.
Yeah.
Did you have challenges? Because some of these things serve as feedback for government.
Okay.
We talk about how we're welcoming to creatives, how we want people to come in, but sometimes there are little things that just sour the whole process for people. So what to expect and some of the challenges. Maybe challenges first.
Okay, yeah.
What to expect.
Okay, I'll kind of give you a brief on what the exhibition is. So it is called Awanile, which means, when you translate it usually loosely into Yoruba, means homecoming. And I wanted to create a sense of, I've come back home, no matter where in the world you are, no matter what you do, there's no place like home, which is, I've always been like, growing up, that's always been a main thing for me. So coming back, I wanted to be like, okay, I've come back to Nigeria and I want everything to be a Nigerian production, everything in Lagos State. In saying so, doing that, I was making sure that when I would go out, because I shot everything on the beach to tie into the themes of the waterway, it was going to those beach locations. And when you go to the beach, everything's okay, but when they see you with a camera, they're like, okay, well, you have to drop this much. And then like, I'm just a single person, I'm not a media company, this exhibition has been like funded by myself, so it's like I don't have those means to like drop that kind of money to give them, those people. So that was kind of the challenges I had. Or sometimes, when you're shooting, like people would be walking by and then they'll just stand there in the middle and just stare like, what is this person doing? So that kind of reception, but I wouldn't say anything too negative has happened. And being able to like this one I took last year when I came was going to Takwa Bay, and while I shot that image, it was more, a lot of people were just trying to like come in and be like, no, you can't do that, and then the model was like, oh no, but we always come here and we do content. They're like, but no, you have to have this much money if you want to shoot. Those kind of things are the main issues I would say that was with shooting.
Elena, looking forward to the great work that will come out.
Okay, thank you very much.
They've come out already. You've seen them, but the world
yeah.
has not seen them yet. So looking forward to that, and we hope this is an encouragement to young girls out there to pursue their dreams. So thank you so much for coming.
No problem. Hope to
I wish you the very best.
Cheers.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Elena Adeniyi, photographer, creative director. She took my picture, by the way. Thank you once again.
No problem.
Just before we go, let's tell you this. This is from the aviation sector. I know there's been lots of complaints from passengers flying into the country or moving around the airport about issues around corrupt practices and passenger experience. So this is the latest from the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace, and it's a position document on measures to address corrupt practices and enhance passenger experience at MMIA, that's in Murtala Mohammed International Airport, and GAT. So there you go, elimination of joint inspection tables, streamlined passenger processing, transparency in search procedures, and there's a lot more that have come up.
They talked about redefining agencies' roles, swift activation of the mobile courts, establishment of the meet and greet areas, and a couple of other places. Basically trying to talk about the fact that zero tolerance. You know, they have these marshals now. I was listening to the MD, Kuku, talk about it the other day, that it's no longer going to be business as usual. So for those of you who like sharp practices, maybe the time is up.
And so we know how to, report and channel our reporting when we find corrupt officials at the airports. A good development coming through.
We will report you.
Yes, indeed. And that's how it's been on this Thursday edition. We'll be back again with another super bumper package, same time tomorrow. Happy birthday again, Jeffrey.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I am Bukola Kuka.
Thank you. I'm Kaido Kikilu. This is part where we're saying happy birthday to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you so much.
Join us for the after party of the show. Sunrise Daily is next. Stay with Channels.
Bye-bye, I'm Jeffrey Uzama.